From one day to the next, Kir Ianulea acquainted himself with various merchants, even nobles. He started visiting them and inviting them to banquets. And he was liked everywhere, being a smart and gentle man, deeply knowledgeable about worldly affairs, with refined manners, and above all, generous, cheerful and gallant, filled with philotomo and Christian kindness. In short, a truly human gentleman. Thus, whichever merchants or even nobles had more daughters than wealth deliberately sought to make him their son-in-law. Meanwhile, he had already set his eyes on a young neighbor girl named Acrivița, daughter of Hagi Canucciu, a former soldier. Widowed, Hagi was a man of standing, though somewhat frail compared to the burdens of his household, weighed down by 3 marriageable daughters, one after another, and 2 sons, decent boys, otherwise, though unremarkable, so little hope of dowry from Acrivița. But did Kir Ianulea need a dowry? The girl was famous for her beauty. Only slight flaw was that sometimes, not always, she looked cross-eyed. But this was precisely what pleased him most. The girl also liked him. He asked for her hand, and the father, without much fuss, gave it. Being like every man, subject to human weaknesses, Kir Ianulea was ruled by the vice of vanity. He loved to live like a lord solely in expensive celebrations, lavishly giving precious gifts. Therefore he held a wedding so brilliant that nothing like it had ever been seen before in the Negustori neighborhood. So that men said, "This Albanian must be stinking rich." And women, "Look at that sister! What luck for Canucciu's girl!" As soon as Kir Ianulea brought her into the house with musicians, it turned upside down. Up until Sunday evening, the end of the wedding ceremony, she was gentle and obedient like a lamb. But on Monday morning, she rose from bed like a lioness. She summoned all the servants, men and women, gave them one sharp glance that frightened everyone, and in front of her husband said, "Know from today, I am the mistress here, and no further. That with Ianulea it won't go as it did with poor Ianulea. Also know that I have whims. Whoever angers me, even slightly, I slap and send straight to the bailiff to fetch his wages. Short, have you understood? Out with you." From then on, day by day, the lady became harsher and prouder, and the harsher and prouder she became, the more Kir Ianulea loved her, and the more his love grew, the prouder she became. The man spent all day longing for a kind word or smile. She remained sour and sullen all the time if he approached her and tried to caress her to appease her. "Dear Acrivița, why are you angry?" She pushed him away.
"Ah, Ion, go away. You have no charm at all. Can't you see? Another man, in his place, might lose his patience and either put his foot down to calm her or send her back to her father, Hagi Canucciu. But he, where? When she pushed him away, he fell to his knees. 'Dear Acrivița, forgive me,' and tried to kiss her hands. But she, 'Ianulea, stand up! Don't bother me anymore! I won't rise until you forgive me! Then stay like this until tomorrow, if you wish.' And getting up, she left without turning her eyes back at him, despite his tearful pleas not to abandon him like that. He sighed, wiped his eyes, and loved her even more. It continued this way for a while until it occurred to Lady to flip the script, to roast him from another side. She pretended to fear he was cheating, pretending today, pretending tomorrow, until she actually began to believe it herself. The man lent money, naturally drawing to him buyers, ladies, merchants, officials, all sorts of people. Lady Acrivița stayed by the door listening, eavesdropping on everything and not content with merely hearing. She drilled holes in the door with a drill to see as well. And sure enough, not satisfied with that, She bluntly told him what she had heard and seen, and listen to this, that someone said this, and he replied that he squeezed another's hand and kissed it 3 times, and afterward, when she wanted to leave, he took her by the waist and looked at her lovingly, and walked her to the door, and kissed her hand again, and all these flirtations. And worse, and if swore he was wrongly suspected, that it was his duty to be polite to people, and especially to ladies, as any proper merchant should. She started scolding him, and calling him shameless and a liar. Kir Ianulea couldn't bear it any more. He felt like strangling himself like a sparrow and more, but even that wasn't enough for the lady. It wasn't enough that she imagined wrongdoings in everything she secretly heard and saw. To find out even more, she paid bribes to the servants, spy on him, even had her younger brother follow him around to uncover his shenanigans. Naturally, neither the servants nor the brother could find anything, since the man was as upright as a man could possibly be. The lady then flew into a rage at the servants, calling them loafers, sinners, traitors, and thieves. She screamed at her brother that either he was a fool or something else, and ordered him not to cross her doorstep again, threatening to break his legs. And she slapped the servants in front of Kir Ianulea's eyes and fired them.
Once the servants changed, new suspicions and arguments arose, but we can't even really call it arguing. In an argument, one says one thing, another something else, either one after another or both together. In the end, each gets a word in. Here, only she screamed, scolded, and cursed, while he listened, swallowed it all, and stayed silent. Learning that in this house the rooster doesn't crow, the servants played the hen's game. They fed her all sorts of exaggerated tales pleasing to her ears, that he does this and that, wanders around here and there, and because Ion Luca was pleased with such servants, they did as they pleased, stealing and wasting away. At the same time, Acrivița had taken to hosting card games, that a house filled with tables for games like Othello, dice, and even poker, and sweets, jams, wines, coffee, and snuff, pipes upon pipes, all day until evening and night till dawn. On top of that, she was arrogant and conceited, believing no one could play cards better than she did, and naturally, she lost heavily. All these expenses and losses dragged Kir Ianulea backward financially. Income couldn't keep up. He usually said nothing, but occasionally, jokingly, he let slip a word. For example, "Hopefully we won't be beaten by drums with so many complications," was all the lady needed. So what? Aren't we allowed even innocent fun here? You shouldn't have married if you knew you were stingy enough to take Acrivița, Haji Kishnas, her daughter, who was taught in her father's house not to nibble her nails. You should have married a poor slum girl, keeping her locked away eating olives and cornmeal porridge, washing your clothes and never daring to light even a candle stub in the house, or one who would give you horns you couldn't carry. Isn't it enough I'm honest, enduring all your vices and filthiness like a poor unfortunate? I want to live. That's why I'm married. Otherwise, I'd have gone to a convent. And finally, if you like, Kir Ianulea. If not, go wander somewhere and we'll meet again when I see my neck, without mirrors. One day, sitting together at the table with numerous guests before soup was served, suddenly out of the clear sky, Ianulea started talking about a married friend who wasn't present.
How she had an affair with a certain young nobleman, resulting in a child, and a prince, furious, was about to have their tails cut off and send her into exile at a monastery deep in the mountains. How once her husband caught her one afternoon, in the open fields near Terluya Tavern, with the Muscovite consul and other rascals. The gypsies sang, "Hey, Cossack! Cossacks!" while she danced barefoot, clapping her hands behind her neck, dancing wildly like a Zaporozhian Cossack. She went to Kaldarushani to confess to His Holiness, Father Ioanniki, and stayed there from Wednesday in Passion Week until right week following the source of healing. She strolled all night with the confessor in a boat under the moonlight, and sang so loudly that the lake echoed. Little leaf of linden tree, oh, sweetheart, mouth of freedom, while the priest rode and matched the eighth tone hymn and countless other terrible stories. All the guests, particularly the ladies, found it amusing. Meanwhile, poor Kir Ianulea, a gentlemanly Christian, showed discomfort on his face. He endured it as best as he could, and said, initially with considerable gentleness, "All right, Acrivița, my dear, how can you, especially knowing I am such a close friend of her husband, how can you, without seeing all these things with your own eyes, without any evidence, accuse your friend like this? I feel bad." "Oh, then you must be defending her as if you to exchange glances." And then she told everyone that now the friend no longer confessed at Keldarishani. He had put the idea in her head to smash the house. But he would catch her one day and not forgive her as the prince did. He would have her shaved bald like in the barracks, and from Muscovite and monastic she wouldn't escape. Unable to endure it any longer, Kir Ianulea, very upset, and snapped, trembling, "Listen to me, Acrivița. I forbid you, do you understand? Say another word, even about a woman who you can say whatever comes to your mind is more decent than you. You, madam, are nastier than the devil's heel, and however gentle a man is, you drive him beyond all patience. Be quiet, you mad scorpion, or I'll have you tied up and sent to the madhouse. Do you understand?" The lady stood up too, and rushed at him to slap him. He quickly dodged to one side. She, frustrated she couldn't hit him, took the pot of soup from the table and flung it in his face, scalding him from head to toe. Kir Ianulea lost his mind entirely. He lunged at her, fist clenched, ready to beat her. But the guests intervened, grabbing him by the chest. "Mr. Ianulea, stop, man, it doesn't look good." And then to her, "Calm yourself too, Lady Acrivița, for God's sake. Don't provoke him further."
You think so? The lady started shouting to bring the entire neighborhood to their feet. "Help! Help! Good people! This pagan, this Albanian is killing me!" "You hit me, do you? After mocking my family and honor, thief and bully? If you've gotten drunk and feel like hitting, go hit sluts from the back alleys who fall for your pound notes, and at home you squander till you're broke, rascal! But me to hit me! Me! Filth of a beggar! Me! Haji Canutha's daughter, dare you hit me, sinner, ugly fellow, and jester! Wait, I'll teach you, Turkish censor!" And didn't stop screaming until her voice faded. Naturally, the party didn't continue. All the guests jumped up, one after another. Mr. Ion Luca, Lady Acrivița, saying in misfortune man says many things that the 5 fingers on a hand don't match each other, that even internal organs quarrel sometimes, but regardless, it's not good for such incidents to be heard about in the world. From a respectable house! And so on. With effort they reconciled them. Naturally, the whole neighborhood instantly learned that poor Acrivița, Haji Canutha's daughter, ended up being beaten by the Albanian at dinner in front of guests. After he cheated Tutter with whoever came his way. And then the friends. How she was raised, the poor thing, and into whose hands she fell, this pagan will bury her alive. Oh. Kir Ianulea quickly got over his anger. And again, dear, up, dear, down, Dardarot, and whatever she commanded, he responded, "As you wish, my sweet, my life, the world's solace." And meanwhile, Lady Acrivița would, "I won't last long with this fool, this idiotic Ion Luca. Let me think about my future." Thus, day by day, she took the diamonds, jewelry, silverware, and other valuables and stored them at her father Haji Canutha's house. Then she began selling items of value from the house that the fool hadn't even thought to inventory, as any prudent merchant would. At the same time, she gradually became affectionate toward him, began pampering and flattering him, after wrapping him around her finger and chain tagging him as she knew how. One evening, when they were alone in bed, Kir Ianulea suddenly found her throwing her arms around him and kissing him. He said, "You love me, dear Acrivița." But she, looking at him cross-eyed, "My sweet,